How's it going, you beautiful people? My name is Jesus Seizing Dragon, and welcome to episode 2 of Deck Building on a Budget. I screwed up the title there, but it's fine. Y'all know why you're here. And today, for our second episode, we have one of my personal favorite commanders, Ghalta the Primal Hunger. I don't have a co-host joining me today, as I am the resident expert on Ghalta, as it is my primary commander. It's a 12/12 dinosaur that costs 10 and then 2 green, but you can reduce that 10 with the total power of creatures you have. For example, if you have a creature with 3 power, the cost goes from 12 to 9, and all the way down to a bare minimum of 2. So, what do we want for this deck? We want big creatures to help get the cost down, but also enough mana to get them out quickly. When I think of big creatures to help out Ghalta, I of course think of other dinosaurs. So this is a dinosaur deck. Looking at that on the EDH recommended, you can see a fairly large distribution of things, mostly a lot of land and creatures, of course. So allow me to start to put together the basics of the deck, and I'll be back once I have a small bit. And we are back. As you can see, I have a Planeswalker, a bunch of artifacts, and a bunch of enchantments. The Planeswalker is Garruk, Caller of Beasts. Mainly the -3 and -7 abilities are incredibly good, but to get to those, you need to do the +1 ability, which is not terrible at all, honestly. As you can, what's funny is, Planeswalker costs more than all the artifacts combined. And speaking of those, we have Commander's Sphere for an extra green mana, and you can sack it for a card draw if you have enough mana. Decanter of Endless Water costs 1 more mana than Thought Vessel, but is a lot cheaper in terms of price, and no maximum hand size is a plus. The Fire Shrieker, if you equip it to Ghalta, you deal 24 damage with Trample, which is enough to put your opponent definitely on the back foot, as no one likes to take 24 damage. Apologies. Next is the Lifekeeper's Bestiary. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get to look at the top card of your library, and if you spend an extra green when you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. Very useful. Moss Diamond comes in tapped. You tap it for green also. Just nice to have for some extra mana. Soul Ring, you tap it for 2 colorless, one of the most prevalently useful artifacts in all of Magic. It's everywhere. Enchantment, you have Colossal Majesty. If you control a creature of power 4 or greater at the start of your turn, you draw an additional card. A lot of our creatures are at that threshold, so this extra card draw is super helpful. And Colossification. Oh, you have to tap the enchanted creature when you put it on, but they get +20/+20. This would be helpful on any of your creatures, but especially if you put it on Ghalta and also the Fire Shrieker, then it becomes a 32/32 with Double Strike. I mean, it's actually... I think I'm an idiot. 1 second, let me check something. Okay, yeah, no, Double Strike. I thought it was First Strike for a second. No, I'm not an idiot. This is Court of Bounty. When there's a battlefield, you become the Monarch. If your upkeep, you can put a land card onto your battlefield. If you're the Monarch, instead you can put a land card or a creature card. That's, I don't think I need to tell you how freaking useful that is, just to be able to dump creatures onto the field for free. Or play an additional land each turn, even if you're not the Monarch. The Gift of Paradise, where you can enchant a land and tap it for 2 mana of any color. Leyline of Abundance. This one's lucky, and if you start with your open hand, you get to put it on the battlefield. If you tap a creature from mana, always add additional green. And if you spend 8 mana, hey, all your creatures get a +1/+1. And last but not least, New Horizons. There's the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on any creature you control, and tap a land for 2 green. A lot of just buffing different lands and creatures. Except for Leyline of Abundance, it's more of a global enchantment. Alright, and now it's time for the more prevalent part, the sorceries and instants. Your spells, your tools of the trade, and I will be back with them. I am welcoming you back. We've added 20 more cards, 8 instants, and 12 sorceries. Sheesh, my throat is not good today. Unfortunately, we are starting to ramp up the price. We're already at $19.96 out of our $50 budget. But let's go for what we have now. First is the Evolution Charm. Either you can search for basic land, return a target creature from graveyard to your hand, or grant you one of your creatures flying. Under the right circumstances, that third effect can straight up win you the game instantaneously. Cozen Grip, you destroy any target or artifact, but this one's special is because no one can do anything during it. Thanks to its effect, it's uncounterable. Naturalize, just pop an artifact. Pounce, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. The same thing with Ram Through. Ram Through is a little bit better because you don't risk your creature, and if you have Trample, you can do a little bit of extra damage to controller. But then also Tail Swipe, granting your creature +1/+1 until end of turn and allowing you to fight. Each of these are very useful for popping creatures of your opponents you don't like, or you can't kill normally. For example, they have flying or are just very, very evasive. There's Return to Nature, which is another destroyer of artifacts, and Titanic Growth, granting target creature +4/+4 until end of turn, either letting your creature survive, 5 a hit, or dealing a bit of extra damage to your opponent or another creature. Your opponent thinks they're all cheeky, blocking you with, oh, this is exactly enough damage to your creature. You know, +4/+4 and run them over. So you have Broken Bond, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then you can put a land card from your hand onto the field. This is useful. Cultivate lets you grab 2 basic lands, put one to the battlefield, and the other into your hand, and then reshuffle. Explore allows you to play an additional land and draw a card. Harmonize allows you to draw 3 cards. Also very helpful. Overwhelming Stampede, though, this one is a hell of a card. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. If you have Ghalta out, use this and then swing with everything. Unless your opponent has a card that keeps their life total from changing, they won't live. You could just run them down. There's Primal Might. Target creature you control gets +X/+X till end of turn, then it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. This one's very good at getting annoying threats off the battlefield. Rampant Growth lets you grab another basic land card. Savage Stomp costs 2 less, so it would cost 1 if it targets a dinosaur you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature fights target creature you don't control. Dinosaurs are very good at fighting and removing things you don't like. There's Shamanic Revelation. Draw a card for each creature you control, and for each creature you control of power 4 or greater, you get an additional 4 life. Very, very good. And Strength of Pack. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. I don't need to tell you why this is so damn good. Thunder Herd Migration is slightly worse than Rampant Growth, given that you have to show off a dinosaur from your hand or pay 1 extra for it. But any mana ramp is a good card. The Vastwood Surge allows you to get 2 basic land cards for 4, but if you have enough mana to pay the kicker cost, which is a grand total of 8, you get to put 2 +1/+1 counters on every one of your creatures. Yeah, that's pretty good. If you get this card late into the game, don't hesitate to kick it. If you can pay the kicker cost and Overwhelming Stampede in the same turn, yeah, you just win. But now there is just one thing left. The creatures and the lands, but they're not nearly as interesting. And I shall return. And I have finished. As you can see, the final cost of the deck is approximately $36.77. The price will change quite a bit because TCG Player is a bit strange in how it handles pricing. Anyway, for lands, of course we have your 30 forests, but then a jungle basin. When there's the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you yeet a forest back to your hand, but you can tap it for both a colorless and a green. Well worth just throwing a forest away. The Myriad Landscape. Spend 2 and then sacrifice it. Hearts Library for 2 basic land cards that share a land type, put them onto the battlefield and shuffle. Path of Ancestry, tap it for green. When you cast a green creature spell, look at the top card of your library. Helicarrier Tower gives you no maximum hand size. Temple the False God you can pack for 2 colorless. As for creatures, there's a lot of dinosaurs, so I was going to look at the creatures that aren't dinosaurs because they're more interesting. The Arbor Elf. If you tap it, you can untap one of your forests. Good for rampant growth. When it makes your forest enter tapped, you can just say, okay, it's untapped now. Base Whisper. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. And then Brawn. If Brawn is dead and you have a forest, your creatures have trample. There's a surprising lack of trample on dinosaurs, so you gotta need some way to throw it on. Then you have the Drover of the Mighty, which goes to 3/3 if you control a dinosaur. You can tap it for another green mana. Elvis Mystic, just tap it for a green. Nice and simple. Your Leech can carry it. You tap it for a green, but if you control a creature of power 4 or greater, tap it for 2 green. That's really easy to do because, dinosaurs are tough guys. Or else, you tap for 1 green. In the Llanowar Tribe, you tap for 3 green. And then this is a dinosaur, but it's interesting. The Topiary Stomper. There's the battlefield, you choose the library for a forest. Acclamation Sage. There's the battlefield, you can destroy a target artifact or an enchantment. A well-rounded, at least in my eyes, well-rounded deck that unfortunately suffers at protecting itself from board wipes, but those cards are kind of expensive. For upgrades, of course, you can do things that add hexproof. For example, a card known as the Archetype of Endurance. And so, not too much to say, so I will take a moment to gather some cards that will work as very powerful upgrades for this deck. And last but not least, for possible upgrades, I have left 12 cards that, whilst a bit higher budget than usual, are pretty good and well worth the investment if you can get them. But for now, I believe I shall leave you. Thank you everyone for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Reese Dragon signing off.